Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, that's such a great idea, because what kid isn't going to love to see that their eyes are glowing?
Yeah.
So definitely. And so let me ask you this then. Obviously, if you want to work with kids, you got to be good with kids. Is that something that you were naturally just good at from the start, or is it something that you had to learn to get better at? And if so, how did you do that?
I guess there's two things involved. I do not know if I would have been good with kids before I had kids.
Okay.
I was an eye doctor before I had kids, but I did not do Ortho K before I had kids. I'd already had kids, and I started doing Ortho K, and you learn a little something from dealing with your kids and dealing with your kids at their best and dealing with them at their worst, right? You definitely learn something. But I think the other part of it is, and my office team would tell you this too. I'm a playful guy. I'm not a very serious person in the office unless I have to deliver some serious news. I like to joke around. I like to wear my fun socks with dogs on them, or whatever, tacos on
Mhm.
them, whatever. And kids will make comments, and I keep some Lego figures in the room, and they're always because my son used to be in the Legos, and now he's not. So I grab those and I just have them kind of placed around the room, and they'll ask or notice there's a new one there that wasn't there last time they came in. I can at the same time show the parents that I have confidence in what I'm doing while still being a little bit goofy with the kids. And I think that helps a little bit there too, just kind of put them at ease.
Right. So what you're saying is like a more lighthearted approach, and don't have such a serious exterior, and acknowledge the fact that, because one of the things that you said in the article is children are smart and they can understand the orthokeratology process quite well. And something my reminded my mom used to say about kids, she said, kids are short, they're not stupid. And I feel like if you treat a child like, hey, I trust that you can understand what this is, and I'm going to
Right.
do my best to explain this to you. So I think, definitely treating that child with a certain level of attention that they can pick up on it. Like, kids are smart. They will be able to pick up on what you're trying to explain to them. Wouldn't you agree?
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. And and they ask questions. They ask great questions. When they come in for a
Sure.
follow up, the first thing I always pull up before I even look at their acuity or talk to them, I pull up their topography patterns, right? And they know I'm looking at those. They're wondering what the red means versus the blue and what they mean. And it's a great opportunity to say, well, we want it to sit well centered. And fortunately, it is. It looks well centered with that little red circle that goes around. That's really good. That's what we want to see. Or if it's not perfectly centered, say, well, that's why your left eye doesn't see as well as your right. That's my job to fix that.
Gotcha.
You didn't do anything wrong putting it in. You didn't put it in off center. I just need to adjust the design a little bit. So I'm going to work on that and try to get it to be just as clear as your right eye. So yeah, I'm always amazed by the questions they ask.
What other kind of questions do you get?
Well, the big one is how does it work? Which I actually really love the question how it works, because maybe this kind of dovetails into my other comment I was going to make is parents are apprehensive too. If they wear
Hmm.
contacts, maybe not, but in some cases, like they're terrified their child is getting more nearsighted. They're
Right.
very nearsighted. They want to do something, but they're not quite comfortable with the idea of a contact lens in a young child. And one of the answers that I always tell them that seems to put them at ease, and it's absolutely truthful, is in their head, they think that this is a hard lens designed to mash their cornea flat. And mash is not a word that we use.
Right.
The thing I explain to them, and I explain it to the child as well, is this is not a mechanical process. This is a hydraulic process. There's a
Mm.
layer of tears underneath that lens, between the lens and your eye, everywhere around. And if there wasn't, it'd be a bad fit. We'd have to adjust it. We'd see, corneal irritation. That tear layer is thicker in some places and it's thinner in other places, and it creates a hydraulic force. And so I don't need to go into way more detail, but the idea that it is a hydraulic, not a mechanical force, is comforting to them, and I'm in a really educated area. Parents of the kids coming in and the kids themselves, I mean, they're really smart. They do well in school.
Hmm.
They've got high paying jobs, and they can all understand those concepts. It might be different in some areas, but when I explain that, they kind of understand, okay, it's not just kind of mashing the eye flat. It's a little more complicated, and it feels and seems safer to them on that.
Yeah, I got to imagine that's got to be really fascinating to a kid who, maybe she's really into science, or, a kid who's into trucks, or, a kid who's really into, like I knew a kid who, when she was younger, was really into like making like goop, like, God, what was that stuff called? It was like you could get a kit for it and you could make this like paste or goop, and you could change colors with it, and you could change
Yeah.
like the form and
Mhm.
consistency of it. It was like doing a little science experiment.
Sure.
And so I mean, I imagine that's got to be really fascinating to a kid who's already into, science and taking things apart, or, kids are naturally curious anyway. So I have to imagine if they'll have lots of questions. So I'm excited to hear that that's, an important part of your process is involving them in that and answering those questions. I think that's really cool.
Sure. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I always start by engaging the child because I don't want the child to be bored. It's all about
Right.
them at that visit. I mean, they're the whole reason that they're there is the child. So
Sure.
the last thing I want to do is be turning my back to them and talking to their parents. I always face the child. And then, of course, if something's directed specifically to the parent, I'll turn and I'll say that to them. And I already know that at the end of the evaluation, there's some paperwork and forms that, informed consent the parent has to sign. They're already going to be bored at the end. So I don't want them to be bored at the beginning. I want to have them engaged.
Right. Yeah.
Another one of the things that, in terms of parents being a little bit apprehensive as well, there's some psychology involved when dealing with children and when dealing with potentially anxious parents. And, one of them is we know that depending on the amount that we're correcting, the child may not be coming in seeing very well at their day one visit at all. If we're correcting somebody who's a -6, they're probably not going to be 20/20 at day one. They're probably going to be somewhere, probably get maybe about 60 to 70% of it in the first day. We might get more. And parents will worry, oh, wait, they're not seeing well. So we make sure we tell them what to expect. If they're a low correction and I think they'll see well, I'll tell them, hey, I think they'll see pretty well first day. And if they're not, I'll say, hey, they're not going to be clear, but they'll be clearer. And just a matter of when things are going well, just make sure that I exude that sense that things are going well. We've corrected 60+% of their prescription in one night, and it's centered really well, and the cornea looks nice and healthy, then that's a win. That's 3 for 3 there. And so if they start asking questions, well, why does the right eye see better than the left? You can say, well, we corrected a similar percentage, actually. The right eye had less to correct. The right eye sees a little better. But they're doing well. And so when I'm evaluating them, that one-day visit, and I think the one-day visit is so critically important just in terms of their comfort level that things are going well. I explained to them that there's 3 things we're looking for at a one-day visit, and 20/20 vision is not one of them. If we get it, great, it's a bonus, but we want a healthy cornea. That's why we put the fluorescein in and look. The cornea looks great. We want to see that the lenses we put in centered very well overnight, and tell them, they did. They centered really well. And then we want to make sure that the vision got better, and we reduced the amount of nearsightedness, and we did that too. So we're 3 for 3. We can't ask for anything better. Let's see how you're doing in a week, right? And then if they've had any apprehension, they've tested their vision at home and they've had the kid look across the street and they couldn't see the sign that their parent sees with their glasses or whatever, it diffuses all of that and just lets them know, we're on the right track here. We're doing well. So we'll just kind of keep on keeping on with this treatment.